Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Mythic Zachary, who is going to be the next promo character coming to RTS. If we look at him on the right hand side, we can see visually he has got a lot of different weapons, and you can identify which one he's going to be using by the fact that it's flashing. It's the flashing knife. He has got a pistol on the Kevlar and he's also got a rifle in his other hand, so he is pretty geared up for sure, but he is going to be opting for that silent approach as a fast character using the melee weapon there. If we look on the left hand side, we can see with the art it is animated. I do love this with the grenade toss. It's a no look grenade toss as well. He's just staring you right in the eye, just happily just juggling that nade in his other hand. And we can see a little bit more detail of the rest of his art. You can see actually to a certain extent his knife, his dagger. It does actually, when it's fully upgraded, go kind of like crazy mode where it's two daggers attached to each other and it looks pretty nuts. If we look at his stats, we can see at grade 5 level 600 he has got 13,662 base attack, 13,458 defense and 13,662 HP. He is a fast character like we said before. He is considered damage dealer, mythic character of course, and his allegiance is part of the kingdom. So I think he'd only be the third character to be added to the kingdom with Ezekiel and Shiva. So that is something to keep into mind. Now first of all, we'll go across and check out his adrenaline rush. It is called Chop Chop. It has got a recharge rate of 55 AP, so it is fast. Deals 600% damage to one enemy. This character gets 25% attack and 25% defense for 2 turns. So a single target nuke with the rush seems pretty offensive. It is quite fast though, and generally when it comes to 55 AP, you think of characters that would be on a defense team holding stat weapons. A lot of attack team characters are 66 and require certain AP manipulators to get it going. If we remember back to the 6-star era, that's exactly what Zachary was like before, where he was a fast character. Like it was a fast recharge rate character on a defense team, but a damage dealer. So it may be kind of trying to keep in line with how it was in the 6-star era in terms of, you know, just the style. He gets a little buff. The 25% attack and 25% defense is not too bad. And like I said before, because it's 55 AP, it means he doesn't have to have any AP on attack to get a normal third turn rush. As long as his signature move is in the first 2 turns, he'll gain 59 AP, which is obviously more than 55. And then he'll be able to get this rush off naturally on turn 3. Okay, so we'll just start an attack, and I have got an AP on attack weapon in his hands, and he has got an 8% weapon on the team. So you'll see that after doing a basic attack, I get 35 AP. If I have a Glen, I can obviously hit the crit, and I get a natural turn 2 rush with AP on attack, which you're not going to get with another character unless you do 2 Glen attacks, which you can definitely do. You can do the 2 Glen attacks like you could on the start of this turn. For instance, when this turn starts, I can just do another Glen attack to give AP to Zachary. But now I don't have to do that. So if I do hit another crit with Glen, well, if I did hit one, I would give it to Bruce. And this is where the fast, really fast AP characters can benefit your attack teams. You can get, obviously, rushes faster, so on and so forth. Now, if we target a character that has reasonable HP, in terms of like full HP, we're going to do 600% damage. Zachary is not really fully geared up. You know, he's not fully geared up, but you can see that he is just going to be able to take him out. He hasn't got all the 1535s around him. He is only level 600, no lieutenant system. You know how it works with the tests, guys. I'm not trying to make them really buffed up just to see the full potential, because everyone has different lieutenant system. It's just the way it is. But you can see the buffs come in, and you can see they stacking with something else. They're stacking with something else. What else are they stacking with? I'm not sure, which we'll look into later. But you can see that the damage is going to be pretty basic. Just single target, heavy nuke, and then he'll buff himself with some defense and attack. Now, if we look at the skill upgrades, and this is with the limit broken character, you can see Chop Chop, 55 AP cost. At grade 2, it gets plus 25% defense for 2 turns. So initially it doesn't have a defense boost, but you're going to get him to grade 2 quite easily. And also grade 4 quite easily. 200% extra damage, so it goes from 400% to 600%. Now, the limit break will be the hardest part, of course. That means you have to get 3 of this guy. And then you get plus 1 turn of 25% defense and 25% attack. I don't think that's like actually spectacular. It does go up to 3 turns. It does mean it will affect his next rush most likely though. That's the only thing you've got to keep in mind. But it just means he's going to stay alive longer on a defense team. If you do want to use him there, he's going to do more attack and also stay, you know, alive longer on an attack team as well. It's pretty much as simple as that. Now, Zachary, of course, will have a signature move, and it is called Deceptive Strike. It has an initial cooldown of turn 2, cooldown of 1 turn, number of uses unlimited, deal 200% damage to one enemy with trait damage. This character gets a Guardian Shield. Now, it is worth noting that with the rush, I said he had to have a signature move that worked in the first 2 turns to get a natural turn 3 rush on a defense team with no AP on attack, and that's what he's got, so that's going to be absolutely fine. The trait damage is going to be pretty nice. On a defense team, that means he's going to always do trait damage no matter how the AI wants to focus with this. Sometimes there won't be any tough characters attacking you, and he'll still do trait damage. That's actually going to be quite good. Now, him getting a Guardian Shield happens after he does the damage, so it's likely that the Reflect, if there's any, will come in, and the Guardian Shield will come in afterwards. I can test this out, I think. Basically, if I've got a Mercer, it'll be an easy test, or I'll just use a Reflect mod on someone, just to see if the Reflect comes in before or after the Guardian Shield. Okay, so we are on turn 2, and we're just going to use this Zachary signature move. We have not got that natural rush. Let's say Glenn didn't crit, or I wasn't using Glenn. I'd use my signature move turn 2 on a defense team. It would happen normally, but on an attack team, I'd have to decide to do it. It generally seems like a good thing to do over a basic attack, just because it can do trait damage. And there you can see 200%, and then the Guardian Shield comes in afterwards. I'm thinking just by showing this animation, it should be clear, but I will show you it with me doing this against a Mercer, which is a guaranteed Reflect. Okay, so we're on that second turn again. Zachary's got his signature move ready. I'm going to target Mercer. Mercer does have a passive that always reflects if he has targeted damage. You know how Mercer works. So he should always reflect some damage. I'm going to do trait damage, so it should be quite a significant reflect. And there you see. You saw I took the damage, then I got the Guardian Shield. This is worth noting just based on if you're going to use him on attack and how you're going to focus people. But on defense, he will generally do it, and there won't normally be too many people with Reflect, so it won't be too, that big a deal. But he'll get a Guardian Shield on turn 2, which is actually pretty decent. It's going to be a guaranteed absolute defense, basically. That's how Guardian Shields work. However, a Guardian Shield, of course, can block things like splash damage, rampage damage, which absolute defense cannot. So you can see it as a little bit better in that circumstance. If we look at the upgrades for the signature move, you can see at grade 3, it gives -1 cooldown. This isn't that big a deal, in my opinion. I don't think going from 2 to 1 on the cooldown is that big a deal, just because of how the rush will work. If he does get impaired, however, it will mean that he can just use this more often over, his rush being unusable. And then the starting cooldown going from 3 to 2 is really important. So you do need to get him to grade 5 to get him to rush quickly on a defense team. And honestly, just using it in the normal cadence of how you'd want to use a character, like basic attack, signature move, rush, seems to be like the normality on an attack team as well, as a sort of minimum. You're not going to get as much AP, but he doesn't need as much AP though if you don't get him to grade 5. But if you don't get him to grade 5 as well, he's going to have a significant stat drop when he is a grade 4. Now we are going to look at Zachary's passives, and I will tell you this, I have had 2 versions of Zachary this entire time, and you had no idea. This is because one of his passives is so obvious and would make you not even look at how his rush worked or his signature worked, that I had to basically ask for a second version where it was unupgraded. On this version, however, it is upgraded. So we're going to look at the passives. The first passive is called Agility. 10% increase in basic attack damage. That's how it works for damage dealers. And then the second one, this is the one that was unupgraded because it is so obvious. At the start of each wave, up to 5 enemies get 30% of this character's attack in bleed damage for 2 turns. There was no way I could use this character in the test for the rush or the signature move without you seeing this. I was trying to think of ways I could put resist on the entire defense team. Everyone would have to proc, the resist. I was just like, nah, it's not worth it. So I did request another one. Obviously, that's going to be nuts. We will be showing you that in the next clip. Not so fast. When this character starts their turn, 60% chance all fast enemies get attack up block for 2 turns. Again, this seems a bit more of a defense team build here. Nimble, when attacked, a 20% chance to reduce the damage to 0. Again, kind of seems more of like a defense team character, like Zachary was in the 6-star era, being that that damage dealer, but used on defense. And that's a guaranteed absolute defense. It work with basic attacks and signature moves, but I'm pretty sure Nimble will not work with rushes, unless they're multi-hit. Now this Zachary is limit broken, and he has got the passive running, as you can see. And he has got 33,000 attack. Obviously, it scales off that stat. So right now, he's doing 10,000 bleed for 2 turns. If he gets up to, let's say, 75,000 attack, which I have got on some of my other damage dealers, characters like Sandy and Michonne, it would go to 22,500 bleed for 2 turns. That is obviously going to be 45,000 bleed. And there's not a lot of defense team characters that can, actually deal with that, to be honest. It's going to be kind of crazy. And then if he's on a defense team, he won't be able to get up to the same level of bleed at 75,000, attack. But he'll still be able to get up to at least 50,000 attack. So he'll have a significant amount of bleed against your, attack team characters. And, we're just going to defend on everybody. And you'll basically see how it works. We'll have a proc, and it also bypasses the Guardian Shields. Depending on the HP of the defense team, obviously they're going to fall fast. And this is just unupgraded defense team and unupgraded attack team, honestly. So in this circumstance, it's extremely powerful. HP is going to be heavily required, it will seem. And those fast healing weapons would obviously counter this to a certain extent. But right now I could come in with like Michonne and stuff and just decap characters as I wish, So the combos of Zachary plus any sort of splash damage character like Sandy are going to be pretty brutal. Now we look at the skill upgrades for Zachary's mythic abilities, his passives. As you can see, Bloodbath is actually the grade 1 upgrade. So even if you only get one of him, you're still going to be able to get that attack bonus. So if he is a step-up recruit, that would mean 80 pulls. So it is going to be quite easy to get a hold of that compared to, other characters. Agility at grade 2, increase in basic attack damage is there. Not so fast, and this is the 40% chance all fast enemies get attack up block for 2 turns. That's at grade 3. Not so fast 2, and another 20% there on grade 4. Grade 5 is nimble, and that's the chance to do a 20% chance to reduce the damage to 0. And then lastly, there's another agility in here which will increase basic attack damage. Now, the basic attack damage upgrades on agility should not affect not so fast. Agility doesn't affect burn, doesn't affect bleed, because it isn't an actual stat. It's based on them hitting a basic attack. So those will increase his signature move and his basic attacks and nothing else. Now, Zachary does have a specialist skill, of course. You might have seen it proccing in some of the other clips. It is aggro, and we'll read through it and then I'll just break it down. This character gets 30% attack and defense at the beginning of each turn if it was not directly targeted by a successful attack or ability in the previous turn. Bonuses given this way stack with each other and other bonuses. It resets on a new wave of combat. Now, like you saw before, it did stack with his rush buff, so they stack together and they multiply together as well. The number just gets higher and higher and higher as things go on. Now, aggro is seen as one of the better specialist abilities, and it was a newly added specialist ability as well in the Mythic era. There are 2 characters that have it currently. I think it's just Frost and Gator. I don't think there's anyone else who has it at the moment. But this works on attack and defense. The downside of this specialist skill when it comes to Zachary is it will not enhance his passive at all, because his passive comes in at the beginning of the wave and then that's it. At least in raids. If you used him in other forms of the game, potentially things that go on to multiple waves, let's say conquest stages that have 3 waves, by the second wave he could have a lot more stat built up because of this buff, and then obviously his bleed would be even higher. That is going to happen for sure. However, with the 1 stage, conquest stages or raids or war, it's never going to enhance that passive. So that's the only downside of this when it comes to that. But he will get more defense. His attack boost will come in for his rush. His attack boost will come in for his signature move. And you can kind of see him just getting big boosts throughout the fight based on this little buff here, and like I said, it stacks each turn, and we did see it before when I tested this out with Gator. So if you want to go check out my Gator video to get a bigger breakdown on how aggro works, you can go check that out. But you have to do damage against this character to make it so that they don't actually get the buff that turn. If he absolute defends like 5 attacks in a row, and he has got more chance to absolute defend due to his passive, then it will actually get a natural proc. He's always going to get a proc that way. Now, Zachary does have an attached weapon, and it's actually not that bad. We do generally see pretty bad weapons on these mythic characters. It is called Zachary's Blocking Machete. It has got 25% attack, 25% defense, but it has a normal absolute defense on it as well. If you haven't got a fully upgraded armory, or you don't have that many absolute defense weapons, this is definitely absolutely fine to go with. You just upgrade the attack as much as you can here, and then upgrade it to a 5-star weapon, and then decide what you're going to do with it at that point. Do you want to put AP on attack on the base, or do you want to use it as a pure stat, which is definitely a good way to go. Unfortunately, I would say the one stat on here that you didn't want is defense, realistically, because on a character like Zachary, he doesn't need defense as much. A, because he's got aggro, and B, because he's got absolute defense. He wants to defend against things like bleed. He wants to defend against things like burn, and then he's going to need HP for that. But that's the only downside of this. Obviously, you can have that weapon waiting in the wings, just ready to put on him. And I actually think I myself have got an attack HP absolute defense weapon, the first weapon I ever crafted once absolute defense came in, so I might actually get to use that weapon if I decide to go for this guy. And he's looking pretty good so far, guys. He's looking pretty good so far. So this is Mythic Zachary, and I think obviously he is a great overall character, but if we didn't look at that passive, that one passive, I think he'd just be okay. But that one passive just takes him to that next level where he's just kind of nuts, you know? And I don't actually mind that too much as I do think that passive is a bit maybe overkill, is that the fact that you can have characters that are okay everywhere on the kit, and they have one thing that stands out that makes them great. And that way they can be countered because they've got one great thing. If you have a character that's got like 4 or 5 great things, that's where it can get a bit ridiculous. And I don't think Zachary has 4 or 5 great things. I think he's got that passive, he's got his specialist skill, and then I think maybe the absolute defense. I think he works quite nicely on a defense team based on the rest of his passives, but they aren't crazy. You know, it's just giving him more chance to absolute defend than anything else. That bleed, however, is going to be some major issue. And the big problem with this character, and I think is a big problem in RTS and has been honestly since the 6-star era, is you're never going to know when he's on a defense team. I'm not going to be able to gear a team specifically for when I have to face Zachary, because I do not know when I'm going to face him because he's not a leader. Where I have built a team when I'm going to face Ty because he's a leader, and that adds a lot more strategy depth there. I've got multiple teams. Now I'm going to have to make my one team beats all, have lots of bleed resist in there as well, and it just seems like kind of weak levels of strategy in that, from my perspective as attacking. But it does make it easier to defend, I guess. We've got rainbow leads with pretty much you can have any character on defense. So hopefully that something happens there. I have been calling for that honestly for years, since the 6-star era. It is in arenas, but it isn't any other parts of the game yet. Hopefully something gets done there, because yeah, this character's gonna be nuts. You're gonna have to have bleed resist. You're gonna have to have cleanses. Sadiq, for instance, does turn to cleanse, but you're gonna take 1 proc. So yeah, guys, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Do tell me what you think about Zachary, though, in the comments down below. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.